Right, well, thanks for joining us, David, who's from Network Rail. He's kindly agreed to answer your questions. So welcome, David, to Dawlish Beach Cams. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Amazing. Right, so I think we should just jump straight in with some of the questions, actually, because we've been sent quite a few when I requested the other week. And so let's start with Colin, actually. Colin, who's one of our railway bloggers, and he's saying this is regarding phase 2. So phase 2 is going to go up to the Coast Guard's cottages. Will the only access be via Rockstone Bridge for the 2 years duration, or will you be keeping the Coast Guard's bridges open for some time?
So we will attempt to keep Coast Guard's bridge open as long as possible. There will be times when we'll need to close it. So when we're working around the bridge area, apart from that, we will be able to move the work site slightly to accommodate people to actually access the bridge. But it's a case of actually trying to work with the programme to make sure that we accommodate that going forward. Okay,
because I think this question's come from Colin because he uses both those bridges to film the railway special. So I think ultimately, if they were both closed at the same time, that's a lot of our footage stopped. But I'm guessing you'll always have I guess Rockstone Bridge is phase 3, is it?
So going back towards Dawlish Warren, that's in future years. So we're not planning on taking that seawall further back to Dawlish Warren within the next couple of years. In overall program, the whole of the coastline, that's probably about 5, 6, 7 years away. So there will be further phases as we are expecting sea levels to rise and storms to get worse, etc. And there'll be future phases going forward in 7 years to come.
Okay.
But just on the bridge as a potential viewing platform, we would certainly, when we're working in that area, close off the walls, the sea wall side, and there would be the potential for people to go onto the bridge, and we'd just cordon off our work site so nobody would potentially get injured.
Right, okay, that's great. Now, I did have, just moving on, I had another question, which was regarding the bridge at the minute at Kenaway Tunnel. Now, that's currently closed, and it's actually Councillor Gary Taylor that asked, do you know when that's going to be open? Because when I walked past this morning doing my photographs, it actually said December on the letter that was on the railings.
So a couple of things there. So we will be completing our works to the seawall. Our last shift is planned for the 23rd of July, at which point we will be demobilising, moving all the plants off the beach and opening the promenade, including the bridge at Kenaway Tunnel. We will be coming back after the summer period to do some finishing touches. So, for instance, lighting and putting benches in and putting some permanent fencing in. So obviously over the last 3 or 4 months with the current situation with coronavirus, we have struggled with certain suppliers to get materials to site. So we've been working tirelessly hard to get to a point whereby we open the promenade so people can enjoy it for the summer period. And then come back and do some finishing touches in September. With regards to that sign, so that sign was put up by Devon County Council, so it wasn't part of the project. So we've got a footpath closure in place, and unfortunately they printed the wrong dates on it.
Okay, okay, that's good then, because I think a lot of people wouldn't last that long to get to round those parts anyway. Okay, that's great. So I missed the second one from Colin, actually. He says, and this is regarding the new footbridge that's going to go at the railway station. Just saying, with the lifts give access to the seawall, just platform 1. Will the lifts be large enough to hold a family of 4 and their luggage?
So, yes. Our plans include 2 gates on the platform which would give access to the new seawall and then down to the beach. So that's within the current scheme and design. And then it would be the responsibility of the Great Western Railway Company to manage those access. So they are the tenant,
yeah,
and they would need to manage that access and egress. So so that's the first part of the question. With regard to the size of the lift, yes, absolutely, it will be suitable to carry more than actually 4 people in a buggy, 5 years. So it's the standard Network Rail lift. I think it's 16, maximum of 16 people, something like that. So it's a relatively large lift.
Fair size then. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Sue Liner as well, actually a neighbour in the shop just up the road. She's uses a mobility scooter and is wondering if the phase 2 part will be fully accessible for mobility scooter users and the disabled in wheelchairs.
Yes, so that's absolutely correct. So it's what we call an access for all lift bridge. So there'll be, from the car park, for instance, there'll be changes to that ramp so people can get up from the car park onto the platform, into the lift, across the bridge and down. So yes, those are all part of the plans for this scheme as well. Okay.
And Andy, a friend of mine who is in the curio shop, he says he's impressed at the height of it, but would like to know how high it's actually going to be, and this is for phase 2, I believe.
So the seawall is 8.5 OD, so that's the ordnance level. So
similar to King's Walk at the minute, where you're doing phase 1, going to be the same height as that, is it?
It's slightly higher than that because of the modelling, the weight modelling that we've actually done. It needs to be slightly higher to give us that protection.
Okay. And he's also saying, will there be any breaks in the seawall for people to get on and off the beach? At King's Walk, there used to be some footsteps halfway down. Obviously, with phase 2 being a longer stretch of seawall, is there going to be opportunities for emergency services to get down onto the beach if required? So
the plans are to have a ramp, a part of that section, a ramp and steps at each end. So currently there's nothing in between that section at all. Okay. It's ramps and steps at either end.
With the new, this is from Sam Lepine. When you put the new footbridge in at, I believe this is going to be at the station, will you be stopping the trains at any point?
So the plan would be to have no disruption at all, or very minimal disruption. So the lift bridge would, in the current plan, it's over the Christmas period of 2021. So the Christmas 21 going into the new year, that's when we would do the lift part of this scheme. So we'd do that when obviously the trains are not running on Christmas Day and Boxing Day, where it gives us that window to lift a new bridge in without disrupting the.
Keith Hodges has a point here. So will there be more of a footprint on the beach? So will the beach be reduced in size with the new work?
Yes. So it does. Because of the scheme that we've come up with, and we're making that promenade a little bit wider, it does encroach onto the beach by anywhere between half a metre and a metre. So there is a little bit of encroachment, but it's certainly not to the extent of decimating the beach.
Yeah. Okay. One from Bob here. He's wondering what you're doing to stop or minimise the flooding of the underpass. I assume he means the viaduct there. I mean, it doesn't flood often, but the times when we have spring tides and strong easterlies, I've been there and seen the waves, well, head up the brook really. So that's going to be a serious task.
Yeah. So with the design that we submitted, we're looking at the current Stilling Basin, and we're gonna reinforce and make that slightly bigger. but also part of the plans is to increase the size of the culvert that takes the brook into the river. So, that will increase the flow from the river coming down into the sea. So this is a view of any long-term plans that the EA may have with any flood alleviation works upstream. So we've worked with the EA to come up with an optimal solution for them in the future.
Okay. And Richard Brownwich asks why there's no plans to put rock groins out to sea like they have in Sidmouth.
So we did look at that through the option selection process, and we've actually got some really good interviews with HR Wallingford to explain it in a lot of detail. But the simple answer is that they would have been such a size, similar or even taller than the seawall that we're proposing, and that would have actually been out to sea, so it would have blocked people's view of the horizon. With that type of structure, it does bring some safety concerns. So people potentially at high tide could swim out to them, and these structures are really, really large boulders of rocks where people potentially could get trapped, children get trapped. So we've discounted on the basis of it really wouldn't look very good, and it potentially would be unsafe for people.
One from Colin Macy. He's got a few questions here. Firstly, the new passenger footbridge with lifts will be great, but where will the platform canopies go? Will they still be there?
Yeah. So we won't be changing the platform canopies. So the footbridge will be on the opposite side to the current bridge, but there will be from the bottom of the lift when you come out on the platform to get to underneath the canopy. There is going to be a bit of a gap there.
So I think you've answered that for Marine Parade, haven't you? To be completed. What was that? The July.
23rd of July is our last shift. And then we'll be demobilising for the summer period, getting all our plans off site, and we will be back in September to do some finishing touches, for instance, as in the lighting that's been proposed and putting some benches in and the final fencing. Okay.
Now I looked at it this morning, and the plans that we originally saw, it looked like it had, there was kind of some surface on the seawall. Is that something that's also going to happen? Because at the minute it's just sort of concrete slabs.
So the proposal for the second phase is a textured concrete, but they're like more like an oblong shape rather than on the phase one. So it will look different. And it will have a texture on the concrete.
Will the phase one be having a texture on the front, or is that?
It has.
Oh,
so there's it's what's called a rachier liner, and it gives it almost like a stone effect.
So this, so Ali from the Blenheim, who is on Marine Parade, I think we've answered the one there about noises. So have you got? So when you come back in September, do you know roughly when you're going to finish?
It all depends on the actual the lighting. So obviously the last couple of months certain companies have furloughed their people, and it's only now some suppliers are only coming back to work. So we will come back in September. We'll have the fencing finished in September. Benches will go in September, and it's then just the final touches, so the lighting.
Mainly sort of the small jobs then. I know that Ali's asking this mainly for her guests to give them peace of mind that it's going to be quiet at night and, stuff like that. She also says, we were told initially that there would be a wall on the other side replacing the railings beside the track, but it's not showing on the drawings. We were initially told that this would stop the water going onto the track and would drain away, but there's also no drawings to show this now. If they are putting the concrete on the track side, as well as now the high will this form the track level, and will it run the same height all the way along or angle as the seawall is currently at both ends?
So over the last 4 or 5 weekends, we've been working Saturday nights, and unfortunately, one of the activities is installing track drainage, which we've got a lot of planned, and it is noisy, unfortunately. But that track drainage is going in, and the concrete units that are going in alongside the track drainage will sit, or on top of those will sit the fencing. So
yeah, I saw some of those this morning, actually, that they were putting those in place.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. If there's going to be a huge wall on the other side of the walkway next to the line instead of the railings, I'd like to know how high that wall would be, please.
So on the railway side of the seawall at Marine Parade, there's an upstand, and it's only about 400 mil, and then on top of that will sit the fence.
Okay.
So the fencing panels will be bolted onto this upstand.
Yeah. So it'll be a mesh fence, will it?
It's yeah. So very, very similar to what was there previously.
Okay. Yeah.
And then So the view is pretty.
So you'll be able to see if you were on the Marine Parade side, you'll be able to see the people walking along the seawall, pretty much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have one from Tim Young. Firstly, I'm a retired railway man who would normally be having a number of days during these 3 months as my free travel allowance expires at the end of June. My main concern, watching the coastal work being done shown on the Blenheim cam, is that the new sea defences will prevent rail passengers from getting their views they're used to enjoying. We'll be interested to know what factors are featured in Network Rail's considerations.
Obviously the priority is to make the railway resilient. But we have taken into account that we don't want to spoil people's view of the sea when they're on the train. So, the design that we've come up with is a balance. So to get the resilience, but also to not obscure people's views. So if someone sat on the train drinking their cup of tea, they'll be able to look out the window and they'll still be able to see the sea. So the works that we've done doesn't obscure the view from the train.
Stuart Broom says, is the wall footpath going to be the same colour as shown in the pictures? It looks quite nice and would be good to walk along. So that's our artist's impression. So that's the design that we've come up with. Ultimately, the final finishes will be a decision of the local planning authority. So no doubt they will look at those and make comments. And if they're happy with them, yes, that's how it would look. But if they're not, then the final surface colours and textures might need to change. And this will be at the meeting. Is this Teignbridge meeting? Is it?
That's correct. So that's Teignbridge on the 18th of August.
It's great to see the protection being given to Dawlish Station building. Taking into account the historical importance of the building, are there any future plans to bring more of this building back into use, for example, for community use? I think, again, that could be more of one for Teignbridge or GWR.
So the benefit of making the station resilient is that those rooms on that side of the station will become dry and will be able to come into use. That's a positive of the scheme. Ultimately, again, it's one of those things whereby we could potentially make the rooms good, and they could be used for a cafe or what have you. But that's not within this scope of the scheme as it stands. So we'll make the station resilient, and then it will be up to others in the future to see what we do.
Would that be GWR ultimately for that?
Potentially. There may be requests from Teignbridge to, what can we do? Is there something that we can bring back to the community? make it a bit of a history lesson, that type of thing.
So yes, one from Stuart Broom. The wall looks lovely and smooth. How does Network Rail intend to prevent it becoming an ugly eyesore from graffiti?
So we looked at this when we did phase one, the Marine Parade seawall, and there are coatings that could be put on the wall to discourage graffiti, but because it's it's not a high vandalism area, there's not the requirement for it. But that said, if it did become a problem, then it's something that would need to take on board.
Okay, I think there's just one more then, which is a biggie. A few questions. So this is Graham Southway, a customer of ours. He's from southeast Wales. I have mixed views on the Dawlish seawall resilience projects. We've been down to the area a number of times to photograph seam specials and walk the walk and wander around the cliff tops. We also traversed the railway well over 120 times on steam charters over 35 years, and we've been enjoying our steam age and love our spectacular views. So this is someone that's been coming down for certainly a lot longer than I have. The first sight was in 1985 when the beauty of the cliff struck. It was a unique place. The first time we saw the real power of the waves was in February 1996 when we had the top lights open and got a tad wet. Later in the night, the waves were crashing over the station onto the road. Then we did wonder about how vulnerable it was to erosion from serious tide. Our rail fraternity knew something drastic would have to be done after 2014 to safeguard the railway, and it is really important for the economies of Devon and Cornwall. But we weren't expecting such brutal concrete solution that has totally ruined the character of the seawall. Naively, I assumed the walkway would still be on the open seaboard side of the protective recurve barrier. I wasn't also expecting a concrete barrier between the tracks and the new walkway. Not a great fan of concrete, but I guess the protection of the railway was paramount and this was agreed solution. Again, phase two is going the same way with the amazing amounts of concrete having to be poured. All we can say is there will be better passenger and visitor facilities, better access from the beach. Not sure the sleepy seaside town of Dawlish wanted to be dragged kicking and screaming into the concrete world that is the 21st century. But such is life. Sea levels are rising. Wind directions are far more erratic than when Isambard, Kingdom, Brunel built the railway. High winds are getting increasingly common, as are storms, particularly the strong easterlies that are rare in the 1840s, according to Isambard, Kingdom, Brunel's journals, as were the 14-foot tides. So yeah, here he's pretty much saying what we know. The seawall was built nearly 200 years ago. There wasn't the storms we were getting then. The seawall, the sea wasn't as high as it was. I've seen lots of historic photos where the railway line literally just goes onto the beach. I believe the railway line was actually a lot lower than it is now. It's already been raised to a certain amount. You were given a certain budget on this as well, and I've had to do the whole lot within this because I believe it was 55 million for the emergency in 2014. Is that correct? And you've got 80 million to do the whole of the seawall.
That's yeah. So we got 80 million pound from the Department for Transport to do phase one and phase two. With regards to designs and materials, I think even if you were to have built this 200 years ago and concrete was available, you would have used concrete.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's the material that's going to give us our resilience for years to come. And to build a seawall in that environment with blocks of stone, it's not going to last, unfortunately. So
I've seen, I walk along there every morning and the beach moves constantly, and there's still boulders in there from years ago where it's had to be repaired time after time. So it's an incredible structure that he built in that time, and I know a lot of people will be very sad to see it go because it is iconic. But again, we do have to protect the railway. There's lots of people still talk about the inland route, which I don't think is ever going to happen myself. But what's Networks Rail's thoughts on the inland route?
That's currently in a proposal stage where it's being looked at again to Oakhampton. But that's, but even if that was to come off, we're talking, years and years.
Absolutely, yeah.
I don't know the timescales. I'm not close enough to it, but certainly, in the current day, the priority is to make this railway resilient.
Thank you very much, Dave, for that.
Okay, yeah, no problem.